Welcome to Truth Talk Live.
All right, let's talk.
The truth is, I can't hide it, I can't hold it no more.
A daily program powered by the Truth Network,
This is kind of a great thing, and I'll tell you why.
where pop culture, current events, and theology all come together.
Speak
Your mind.
And now, here's today's Truth Talk Live host.
Okay, as promised, last week we had or attempted to have a black pastor on who's voting for Kamala Harris in the upcoming election, and he had something come up at the last minute and couldn't make it, but we did a great show, and you all called in. You had 1 hour to change his mind. Well, now, today, we have a black pastor voting for Trump on the air with us in real time, right now, right here. I'm Stu Epperson. We are on the brink of the election, which is tomorrow. You have 1 hour to change his mind. Why should he vote? What's wrong with him voting for Trump? Do you disagree? We will allow him to speak and make his case. I actually invited another black pastor who's voting for Kamala to be on with me, but he is out putting up Kamala signs at all the polls and other signs for other Democratic Party candidates. $1.2 billion with a B is how much money the left has spent in advertising. A lot of that's from George Soros, who is an awful person. Just don't take my word for it. Google it. Anti-God, anti-everything that America or you may stand for. But that's the people funding the ads for the Democratic Party for the election. And to date, $1.2 billion, $1.2 billion have been spent. And that is, so surely our guest, Pastor Reverend Mason Weaver, who's very gracious to come on the show, and he's open to being disagreed with if you want to call in. You have 1 hour to change his mind. Sir, surely you've seen the ads attacking Trump. And just, man, I mean, loose cannon out there kind of said some mean things, mean tweets, etc., unstable. You've seen these ads, surely, yet you are holding your position. You are planning, and don't get me wrong now, but the producers and everyone tells me you're planning on voting for Trump in the election tomorrow. Is that true, sir, Mason Weaver, Pastor Weaver, and why?
So I know you're in the advertising business, so we probably hope that we all believe the ads that we see.
Well, they're so cute. They're so compelling.
Yes. Vote for the best slave master. Democrats have done absolutely nothing for America in the last 100 years. Nothing.
Well, no, hold on. There's a big ad that says on I-40, I drive by it. I'm listening to my favorite Truth Network station in Greensboro, 97.7, and the big ad says, Kamala Harris pledges to raise wages for the middle class. That's what that ad says on the billboard. Now, you don't just put an ad up there if it's not going to happen.
Sure. I mean, if a Democrat is talking, then you're hearing a lie. If you listen to the press, you're going to be depressed. She's had 4 years to do whatever she wants to do. What she's done is increased the amount of illegal aliens. We killed the oil industry. We put Americans unemployed. We raised the price of gas, the price of groceries. She has done what she has wanted to do, and she will do more if you give her power.
Okay, so you're not voting for Kamala Harris. You're voting for Donald Trump.
Absolutely.
Okay, listeners, you have 1 hour. You have 1 hour to change his mind, and that clock is ticking. The day before an election, maybe you can alter the course of this one vote of an African-American pastor who's voting for Trump. You could talk him out of it. This is your last chance. 866-34-TRUTH, 866-348-7884. So, sir, the biggest reason you're voting for Donald Trump as an African-American, as a pastor, why are you voting for Trump? In a nutshell, if you could summarize it up.
Yes, sir. First, I do nothing as an African-American. I belong to the race of Christ. I take every problem to the foot of the cross, and that's where I find my answer. Okay. I see Trump the last two terms, the first term and this coming up term, as a man of God. He got the godly principles. He's obeying the commandments to go get things done. And what he did for the economy, what he did for the nation, what he did for the world was outstanding, and I want more of the same. That's why I'm voting for him.
Okay. Folks, what say you? 866-348-7884. You're welcome to call in and tell us how you're voting and why. We're going to have a friendly conversation. We want to keep it all fair, and we don't want any ad hominem attacks. 866-334-TRUTH. Go ahead, sir. Now, Mason Weaver, you made some pretty intense, crazy statements just a second ago about the party of slavery. Now, what is that about, and how could you attack the Democrat Party like that?
Well, gee, there's a little thing in our history called the Civil War, where Democrats went to war to keep their slaves. 360,000 white men died fighting Democrats, their own brothers, to free strangers. Then Democrats killed Lincoln, the Republican, and inserted into power Johnson, the Democrat, who ended the 40 acres and a mule, who ended the rights to vote for black folks. And it took us 200 years to get back to the civil rights movement, where we fought Democrats again. Every civil rights demonstration of Dr. King era, everyone was against Democrats. Everyone. And every ghetto they owned. They owned every inner city school. They owned every gang neighborhood. Every place you saw a cop shoot a black man and a riot ensued was in a Democrat neighborhood. Republicans, just simple little things like building every black university. Trump gave a record amount of money to black universities. Democrats do not want educated slaves, never have, never will, and that's why they're the party of slavery.
Okay, now hold on a second. You're not one of these conspiratorial people that say that the Democrats were the party of the KKK, are you?
Well, it was founded by 4 Democrat Confederate generals. I don't know what you call them. The KKK in the South killed Republicans and black folks, so I don't know if they'd be Republicans or not. I've seen the mass attacks on black people from Democrats over and over again, so I guess I may be mistaken, but it seems to me that Democrats are the party of hatred, the party of poverty, the party of uneducation, the party of killing babies. I don't call it abortion, by the way. I call it child sacrifice. Okay,
we're going to come back. These are heavy words from our guest. What do you think? Can you change his mind? He's a black pastor planning on voting for Trump. What about the compassion? What about the promise of the left to take care of the poor? Social justice. Shouldn't he consider that? Your calls after this with Mason Weaver. 866-34-TRUTH. 866-348-7884. More on Truth Talk Live coming up. Okay, he's a pastor, he's black, and he's going to vote tomorrow for Donald J. Trump. You have now, Grayson, great producer in here. Thanks for all you're doing, man. Big thumbs up to you. He's manning the phone lines. Right now it's crickets because I gave you an hour. Now you got 40 minutes to change his mind. Pastor Weaver is come out, and you got 40 minutes to change his mind. Now I want to throw another wrinkle in there, and I know you about to unload on me in a lot of different ways and share some things from your heart about this election. I want to hear someone's election prediction. I want you, Mason Weaver, to hold your prediction for a little bit, okay?
Okay.
Hold your powder. But I want to hear what do you think? Who do you think is going to win this election? So, A, call in and talk this pastor out of voting for Trump. You got 40 minutes. You got 39 minutes now. B, who do you think is going to win out there? I just want to hear from some roving reporters. This is a show for everybody to call in. 866-34-TRUTH. You absolutely hate all the candidates and you don't even care, then call in. We want to talk to you. We're not going to run you down and we're not going to beat you up. We may ask you a couple questions and challenge what you think, and we'll try to have a good, fair exchange. 866-348-7884 is our toll-free number nationwide on Truth Talk Live. I'm Stu Evers. A special shout-out to Jacksonville, Florida, 91.7 FM, 91.9 FM St. Augustine. The Truth right down there in northern Florida. Also Selma, Johnson County, Clayton, great area, AM 1090, 105.5 FM, carrying us live right now in the Triangle area. Pastor Mason Weaver, you're going to go vote. You're voting for Trump. You're not holding back. You said some pretty rough things about the Democrat Party and why you have migrated from that party to vote for Trump. Tell us a little bit more about that, and tell us why you've actually been quoted as saying that you believe a lot of folks, a lot of black Americans are actually voting for Trump, which is way out of the tradition here. What's going on?
Well, they voted before for Trump. And the reason is simple. Black people do not want to be owned. Democrats claim ownership of black people. They put us in ghettos where we huddle together. They fund the Bloods and the street gangs. What Donald Trump did the first term was put the black folks on a pathway that 72% of black people became middle class. That means we're paying the same price of gas that you're paying. We're paying for the same groceries you're paying for. We try to get our kids to the same colleges. Now black folks are no longer living in the ghetto. We live in middle class, and we seek the same things, our taxes, our 401k programs. So that's why we're supporting black in record number, all over the place. Black Democrats even are coming back off the plantation to support freedom in individuals. Black people do not think we need white people to do something. We know that everything we have believed in, every activity we think we can do, we dominate in spite of white men not liking it. We think we can dominate NFL football. White folks didn't want us playing. Baseball, they didn't want us playing. Basketball, they didn't want us playing. Singing, dancing. We can dominate anything we want to do. And now we believe that we can dominate business and families and organizations. And we believe that nothing can stop us but us. So we're going to act in our own best interest. And what Donald Trump will do for gas prices, what it do for jobs and income, will benefit anyone trying to take advantage of it, and that's black folks. Okay, so having said all that, and I appreciate your courage to come on this show and talk to everyone, and if you want to change his mind, you got now 46 minutes, toll-free 866-34-TRUTH, 866-348-7884. There was a pretty big moment a week or two ago when Barack Obama, the first ever black president of our country, got on in front of a bunch of African-American folks. Half black. And he said, y'all got to get with the program, and y'all better be voting for the black candidate in this election, Kamala Harris. That's kind of a paraphrase of what he said. Why would you not just fall in line and agree with him? And what do you think in not supporting a black candidate? What is wrong with you? Because I don't follow the slave driver. I hired my master to keep those Negroes in the fields working. His job is like Jesse Jackson's job and Al Sharpton's job. They have one job: getting black folks to the polls to vote for the best master. And that's so we laugh at Obama. You guys worship Obama because he was, as Biden said, first clean, articulate black man. So you guys worship him. Black folks know a thug when we see a thug. So he has no impact on what we do. Oh, wow. Okay. So you heard him. We got a caller. If you want to, we got a line open too after this caller. It's 866-34-TRUTH. It's a toll-free number nationwide. You don't have to call and give your name if you want to be an anonymous caller. 866-348-7884. A pastor who's voting for Trump, you have now 35 minutes to change his mind. Jamal, surely you're deeply offended that this pastor, a black pastor, is voting for Donald Trump. You have a chance to talk him out of it. Go, sir. You're on the air. You're on the hot seat.
Thank you for always taking my calls, Stu. As a matter of fact, I'm not offended. I am very supportive of this brother speaking out and speaking truth. I will say this, though. I won't be so brash as him, all respect due, but I do believe he is speaking a lot of truth to power and what a lot of people need to hear. I know we're coming up on a break, so I'll be quick, or at least I'll try to be. So when you have the Democratic Party who started the whole defund the police campaign, they started that. And when people that I know who call the police who don't get any police assistance for a long period of time, or who tell them that that's no longer their matter, that's one of the reasons why. When we have a low recruitment rate for police, and when we have police leaving the job, and when we have a low number of police that are currently serving, that's part of the reason why that is, because Democrats have started the whole defund the police movement. Then you have the whole women's or anti-women's movement, where you have somebody that can say, I can identify as a woman. So when you have that, and you say somebody on the Supreme Court who can't even tell you what a woman is, okay, well, if you can't tell me what a woman is, that means anybody can identify as a woman and go to a woman's locker room. They can play in a woman's sports. And looking down the long term, if that's going to be the case, then you're looking at the end of women's sports. Just look at Riley Gaines, how she had to fight to keep her titles. And I think she even had to lose a title at first because she got beat by a man. That's not going to be a one-off.
Now, are you saying that the Harris Waltz campaign is trying to push for men competing in women's sports? Is that what you guys are saying?
Yeah, definitely. As a matter of fact, Walls is talking about having tampons in boys' bathrooms.
Oh boy. Okay.
You can't even say that men cannot get pregnant. Men cannot have menstrual cycles. I'm sorry, but that is against science.
Well, let me ask both of you this question. Let me ask both of you this question. Everyone, the left is priding itself on protecting women, but they also can't define women. Am I wrong about that? Is that too much hyperbole there, Mason Weaver?
The Democrats have always been the party of lies. They will tell you what they want you to believe. They will criticize you. Folks, this gentleman here on the phone has a brain. He can see clearly, understand clearly. He doesn't have to be told anything. He knows that a man cannot be a woman. He knows that children should be under authority of the
Okay, we got to take a break. We'll come back. Jamal, thanks for your call. Hey, keep listening, and if you can't find Truth Talk Live on your local station, listen on the app to one of our many Truth Network stations that carry the show. You got 25 minutes to change our guest's mind. He's a black pastor voting for Trump. What say you? Call us next, 866-34-TRUTH. Hang on. Okay, we're back on Truth Talk Live, pop culture, current events, and theology. Everyone's talking about the election, and you're like maybe fatigued. You see the ads. Man, when are these things going to drone on and on and on and on and on and on and just end? When can they just be done? You're tired of it. You see, does anyone else see through the deception, by the way, in a lot of these ads? And here's another question for our guest, who is a black pastor who's planning on punching his card for Donald Trump on Election Day, which is tomorrow in America. It's a big day. Everyone's talking about it. We know King Jesus is still on his throne no matter what happens, and we're not beholden to any candidate, but we are talking practically, and we have for some time. And you're probably like, can't wait for us to move on to other topics here on Truth Talk Live. And I'm Stu Epperson. It's just great to be with you. But we've talked a lot about this subject because we really talk, this whole network and all the stations brave enough to carry this program, like our friends at 88.1 FM, The Truth in Bennett and all across Asheboro. Everyone listening there, hello, and God bless you. And God bless Neil Jackson for being brave enough to carry this show. Everyone that carries this show is listening to content that is about how to live biblically, how to fulfill the Great Commission as believers, how to make a difference on this earth, in this world, while we're here, how to be in the world, not of it. And that includes how you vote. But so often we divorce that, and we have people that are like, well, I don't, like I'm a Christian doctor, but I'll perform abortions. Well, there's obviously a dichotomy there. There's a duplicity there. There's something that's dangerous. Where I'm a believer, but I participate in, trafficking of humans or things like that. It's like, that's just, no, you're not. You stop it. And much like in the early stages of our country, and Mason Weaver, this may strike a nerve with you, sir, where you had actual people professing to be Christians that owned black people, that were slave owners. And so as a Christian radio outreach, this program, we seek to give spiritual, kingdom-minded content to encourage and to help everyone think through their Christian worldview and how it fleshes itself out, and to avoid that hypocrisy. So, Mason Weaver, you are voting for Trump. You're a black pastor. There's a lot of folks out there that don't like Trump. There are $1.2 billion worth of ads that have thus been amassed and put into the major networks to attack the character of Donald J. Trump. He's been convicted. He's been attacked. He's been besmirched. And he's also been, maybe contributed some in his volatile personality and the way he has spoken in the past. And so we're giving our listeners, they now have only 20 minutes left to change your mind. about your vote for Trump. So far, you've had a caller who's agreed with you and articulated some of the same views that you espouse. But what do you see, Mason Weaver, as some of the biggest hypocrisies as a pastor, and how did you end up becoming a black pastor who's going to vote for Trump? I mean, I just left coffee with a guy who said Al Sharpton is in North Carolina meeting with a bunch of black pastors to push Kamala Harris with them, to make sure they're turning their people out to go vote for her. And yet here you are, a black pastor. Aren't you being a bit hypocritical?
Because I don't follow Al Sharpton, the poverty pimp? Nope, that's not a reason. But let's go back to what you just said.
Okay.
He was convicted of a crime. He was a convicted felon. He was a convicted felon. I want all you Christians to hear that. He was a convicted felon, and so was Jesus Christ. Wrongfully charged, unfairly convicted, and sentenced to death, and with the death for your sins.
Wow.
I speak on politics in every sermon I preach because I'm required to stand up against evil. I'm required by God Almighty to put on the whole armor of God, which means facing the enemy.
Okay.
Being off those fiery darts, my job is to confront and stand before people and proclaim the truth. Every problem facing God's people in history and in the Bible, every single problem was from government. We're not supposed to let the government rule us. We are a self-ruling nation. How dare us give up our rights to the government? We have a constitution designed to control the government. We, the people, own this nation. So I don't understand why we're debating this. Donald Trump has stood up for America. We've seen him on the world stage. We've seen Joe Biden and Camilla do nothing but tear us down, verbally and physically and financially. There should be an open and shut case. Vote. You take your Bible to the voting booth, put your ballot on the Bible, and vote as a Christian. You expect these clowns to put their hand on the Bible and swear to uphold the Constitution. Put your ballot on the Bible and vote God's way.
Okay. Let's go back to the phones. 866-34-TRUTH is our toll-free number nationwide. There's another very complex anomaly that's happening in North Carolina that I want to ask our guest about why black pastors are not voting for a black gubernatorial candidate who's pro-life, pro-family, but he's Republican. So I want to ask you about that, but hold your powder because Joe is calling from Ohio, listening to us on 106.5 FM. A big battleground state. A lot of folks, a lot of ads piping into Ohio, Joe. You got a black pastor voting for Donald Trump on the air with us on Truth Talk Live. You got a couple of seconds to change his mind, Joe. What say you?
All right. This woman has responded to the needs of this country. People are talking about hydrocarbons in the air. She shuts down fracking and oil fields. They're against abortion, so she's got those located in high crime areas, and it's going to increase that, and there'll be less police needed. Now, as far as the population not growing, she's bringing people in over the border. That's the only way our economy is going to run. And they're complaining about drugs, the high cost for insulin and high blood pressure. She's raised the prices on food to cut back these people.
Okay, so you're for Kamala Harris or you're for Donald Trump?
Donald Trump.
Okay, so you agree with our guest?
Yeah, but this is a different slant.
Okay. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. We're looking at every angle, Joe. I appreciate your call. We're so we got more callers that agree with our guest. But thanks for listening too, Joe. God bless you, and thanks for voting. It's a God-given privilege in our country, right?
Thank you.
Yes,
Bye.
sir. Take care. Okay, 866-34-TRUTH. Someone's got to call in, surely, and interject some kind of talk some sense into our guest. He's a pro-Trump black pastor, and in North Carolina. Now we have this. I texted a black pastor friend of mine, and I'm going to send him this podcast. Not going to name him on the air. In fact, I tried to get him on the air today too, but he's been busy out there canvassing. And I said, "Are you excited about electing our first ever black governor to North Carolina, a former slave state?" And I thought he's going to be all in on this, and he said, "No way, not supporting him." Mason Weaver, how can that be?
Well, we're not basing our concept of voting on our skin color. We're basing it on philosophy. If you're a Democrat or liberal, it doesn't matter. But I want to know why we're so ashamed to offend the ungodly. Why can't we stand up and say, "Thus said Lord"? Why do we allow the schools to dominate what our children are going to learn? Why are we so afraid to offend these? You got choice, folks. You're either going to offend God Almighty or you're going to offend these party members.
Well, now look, to me and you as Christians, it might be obvious that we don't want men in women's locker rooms, and we don't want we don't want our kids mutilated with all these sex changes. Now, to you and me, it might be obvious, but some of the pastors are like, "Well, vote your conscience." Well, I'm not going to tell you how to vote, or I'm not going to talk about that, and that is kind of perplexing.
We got too many unsaved pastors in the pulpit.
Oh wow!
We know who. We see as pastors in the pulpit, and we're too afraid to attack them. We allow them to fellowship with us, and so that when the population in the pews see the pastor associating with these clowns, they start doubting unbelief. We got to be bold. You're either going to please God, or you're going to please man.
Okay, let's go to Virginia. Mike is a caller on the line. Mike, our guest, is a pro-Trump black pastor. You got a couple minutes here to change his mind. Mike, jump on in here. Thanks for calling in.
Well, first of all, I don't think it's a way I'm going to change his mind, because it's a mindset of people like him. He said something a few minutes ago when he talked about Obama. The first thing he brought out was half black. That bothers me, because in the eyes of God, we're all his children.
That's a good point. We're all God's children. We shouldn't judge someone by skin color, right?
By skin color. When I see people, I don't see them as black. I don't see them as white. I see the way they treat me.
Okay, what about that, Mason Weaver? Wait, Mason, I mean, Mike's got a good point there.
I don't know what good point he has, but I don't think he even said half black, but he was half black. So why am I why am I being criticized for saying what he was? The fact of the matter is, he came across and he was promoted as the first black, and I can admit something, he did nothing for black people, nothing for the economy, and he's running right here now trying to pretend like he's a slave overseer telling black folks how to vote. I do not need to be told how to vote.
Okay, so I don't think Mason Minute is a racial slander, Mike, but what's your biggest reason he should not vote for Trump? Real quick, if you had just one big PowerPoint, what would it be?
When you look at a man who is actually been caught talking about grabbing women in their private parts, you're above people because of the money you got. He is about big money government, and Mr. Mason himself, he don't think nothing about him. He's to the point to where he's brainwashed people, just like you've had people through the ages. And one other thing I want to bring to him too, he brought up something about the Democratic Party.
Okay, hold that point, Mike. I'm going to hold you on. This is a good call. And Mason Weaver, you got some things to answer for when we come back of this break. 866-34-TRUTH. More coming up on Truth Talk Live. Stay right here. All right, he's braved the airwaves as a black pastor who is planning on voting. He's planning on voting for Donald J. Trump, and you've had an hour to change his mind, 30 minutes. Now we got about 10 minutes left in the show. Mike is a Virginia caller who is he disagrees with him, and he's trying to change his mind. And Mike brought up a point of, Trump said some vulgar things. I think you could probably find vulgar things on both sides if you ran the tapes. But Mike, the other, you were going to bring up another big point against Trump by way of policy. What was that, real quick? And then we'll let Pastor Mason Weaver, who's been on the witness stand here all hour, we'll let him respond. Go ahead.
Well, basically, I just about got that little part.
Okay, that's okay. But yeah, you got vulgar, profane people on both sides of the aisle. You got things that are just,
right.
I mean, one of them doesn't want to let men into women's locker rooms. One of them does want to let men into women's locker rooms. One of them wants to protect the unborn. One of them doesn't want to. But Mason Weaver, what do you say to Mike? I mean, he is concerned about, it looks like Trump, they're talking about Trump, using horrible language and stuff like that. Now, I know that was a bit before he was running for president, but still, it's out there. What do you say to him, Mason Weaver?
It was why he ran for president. I want to thank the young man for calling up. I want to thank the idea, folks, we're supposed to discuss and evaluate and debate the issues. But you got to understand, young man, that you cannot believe the press. You got to do the research. You got to do a little Google to find out what's happening. I want you to Google Access Hollywood. That's the quote that everyone says about what Trump said about grabbing a female. What he said was absolutely correct. He was saying that in Hollywood, These beautiful ladies come into Hollywood from all over the country. They're beautiful, they're sexy, they're trying to be a star. And those the directors and producers can do anything to them and it'd be okay because they want to be stars. And they can grab them by the private parts. He never said he did. Google it, Access Hollywood, and learn the truth.
Yeah, but here's the thing. In Mike's defense, I don't like people even using that language, even if they're talking about third party. You know, like I don't like my kids to say, "Hey, guess what? Guess what someone said at school today," and then saying the bad word. But having said that, Mason Weaver, why would you tell Mike? Mike, you're planning on voting for the Democratic Party ticket.
Stu, can I say something real quick?
Okay.
No, let me say something real quick.
Okay,
and
go ahead.
Then you can't. I'm an independent.
He's an independent vote. Okay, he's independent.
So the thing, this is what I look at. Mr. Mason, hold on just a minute. You said something. That's what I was going to say earlier. You talked about the Democratic Party. If you look back in history, right? You were talking about
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, in the Democratic Party, they actually were brought into place in the 1800s. Matter of fact, I think it was around 1828 from what I remember reading. Okay, the Republican Party did not start up till around 1854. As far as the Republican parties were considered to be liberal, while the Democrats were known to be conservative.
Right. But you
no.
Listen.
Okay.
It's not true.
No, listen.
Mike, get your point because we're talking about who we're voting for tomorrow. Okay.
All right. Well, the party is the exact opposite of what it was back then. That's not true. The thing that I'm saying is we've got to vote, and I'll leave it at this. We've got to vote, but like you say, Mr. Mason, he's going to vote his conscience. I'm going to vote my conscience.
Right. So you in good conscience can vote for someone who wants men to go in women's locker rooms and men to compete in women's sports, because that's exactly what. In someone that wants to allow abortion all the way up to the 9th month, in good conscience, Mike, you can vote for that person. Yes or no?
No, I can't. But this is what I'm saying. We have to understand there's a process, a due process that we've got Congress, we've got the Senate. Do we not?
Right, but we're asking today's show specifically about the top of the ticket, and we're just asking people biblically who should you vote for. Now, this pastor thinks biblically he should vote for Trump. Other pastors don't agree. I'm not sure if you agree or disagree. We've debated some tertiary things, but it's been a good conversation, Mike, and I'm glad you called in.
Let me respond real quickly.
Okay, go ahead. Let Mason respond. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, Mason.
First off, you mentioned, Stu, about the vulgar language. That quote from Trump was a private conversation. The program had ended. It was off the air, and he kept recording. So you're right. Trump would never use that in public. And we all use language in private, and we all know we do. That's what Trump did. And by the way, the Democrats did not change. They've never changed. They've always been a party of slavery.
But Mike, now you do agree that the Democrat was the party of slavery. I mean, that they voted. If you go look at the votes, and they voted 100% in favor of owning slaves. You recognize that. And they're also the party of pro-abortion. They had a big abortion truck outside their convention when they had their convention, which was sad. And then they bragged about how many babies they aborted, during that time, which is very sad. But I think it's a good conversation. We got to get some more callers in.
All right, that sounds great,
Mike. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thanks for listening to Truth Network. God bless you, man, and for calling in. Let's go to Augustine from Ohio, another Ohio caller. Let's bring him on the air. You're on Truth Talk Live. You've got 5 minutes to change his mind. He's voting for Trump. He's a black pastor. He's our guest all hour, Pastor Weaver. Augustine, you're on the air.
Thank you. I'm going with him. I'm not voting again.
What?
For Harris. You got it.
How could you agree?
I voted for Obama twice, and that was the biggest mistake of my life. After that, I did a 360. All Obama did was start.
Okay, hold on. So you're not voting for Harris?
No way.
Well, how could this black pastor, our guest, he's a black pastor, Pastor Weaver, how could he not vote for the black candidate?
Just because you're black doesn't mean you have to vote for a black candidate.
Well, but
Everybody's
okay.
got their own mind.
And by the way, there's a black governor in North Carolina, a black gubernatorial candidate, Mark Robinson, running for governor in North Carolina. And he's pro-life, he's pro-family, he's pro-marriage, he believes in two genders. He will not allow men in women's locker rooms. And yet there's a lot of African Americans that I'm shocked they won't get behind him, including a black pastor that I texted with just a week ago.
I don't agree with that, Ever since Obama's been in there, he started this transgender stuff, all these riots that went on, they didn't do anything about it,
All right. Thanks.
Okay. This queers and queers thing, And
okay.
he's teaching transgender to these kids in young schools. That's ridiculous.
This is something very important, gang. You listen to it. The sexualization of our children is very real, and it is a top priority of the left. It's a top priority of their candidates, and you got to take that in mind. While one candidate is accused of vulgar language, and it's awful, and I mean, how do you expect unbelievers to talk? I mean, what in the world? But the other party is actually doing it. They're implementing policy that will, in California, it is a crime if a teacher tells a parent that their kid wants a sex change at age 8 years old, and the parent could go to jail for finding out and intervening. It's awful. And that's part of Kamala Harris's top agenda. Thanks for your call, Augustine. We got a pastor on now, Pastor Carson. He's calling in to try to change the mind of our guest, Pastor Weaver, who's a black pastor planning to vote on Trump tomorrow in the election. I got a line open if you want to go on real quick, 866-34-TRUTH, or you may agree like some of the other callers, like Augustine just called, who actually said he voted for Obama, but he's completely changed now, and he agreed with our guest. Pastor Carson, tell our guest why he shouldn't vote for Trump in the election tomorrow.
I don't have the ability to tell him that. I cannot vote for someone that is pro-abortion. I am curious from your guest today what he has understood about the differences between the Harris position and the Trump position on defending religious freedom, because that's one of my biggest reasons for voting for Trump.
Okay, what do you say, Pastor Weaver?
Trump believes in God. Trump has pastors in his office praying over him, laying hands on him. He has the Bible in his hands when he preaches. So what I understand about Trump is that he is led. You could not have had someone get shot in the head and dip down and come up saying, fight, 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 and that God was with him. That's our belief system.
Okay, but you think he'll fight for religious freedom? Like which candidate? If you just look objectively as believers in free speech, which candidate or which party is going to protect the religious freedom, like radio shows like this, Mason Weaver?
Democrats have never, ever, ever, ever defended any freedom. They need to stop killing millions of black babies in the womb. They have been the party of deceit and disaster. Never give you any freedom.
Okay, wow. I appreciate your call, Dr. Carson. A great question, man. A very informed. Yeah, I appreciate all the callers, and I really do hope and pray, folks, as you look at the candidates, they're all flawed. They all have issues. The Lord is not on the ballot. Okay, so that means everyone on the ballot is flawed. But you want to think about voting your faith, and a great website for that, which I gave in the last show, is voteyourfaith.net. Voteyourfaith.net. A lot of great guides there on the different candidates and where they stand with the Bible. And at the end of the day, what do you say, Mason Weaver, to someone that says, well, I've always voted this way, I'm always going to vote this way because it's what my family grew up in, but that way may disagree with the Bible and what the Bible says about life and about marriage and about family. What do you say to that person, Mason Weaver? Your final word.
When you stand before your Creator, you will not be able to say, I believe what CNN said or my pastor said. You better understand the word of God in your heart, that God is real and Jesus is alive, and you're responsible for what you do as a human.
Okay. And I also throw caution out to the Republican side. Don't try to idolize or make a saint out of your candidate, because he's just as flawed and sinful as the other candidate. Yes. This is why we put all our faith in the Lord, but we vote our faith as to who's closest to upholding biblical truth and upholding the freedoms. And there's also Marxism and socialism versus free market capitalism. A whole other discussion on Truth Talk Live. Download this podcast later and share it with your pastor. Thank you guys for being on.